Encanto characters into villains. Here is how the process is going to work. We take a character like Dolores, we find her 3 main morals, her primary motive, and her key color. We'll then ask Craig to turn those into their evil versions, and he will print the character out as a villain. This is Dolores as a villain, and at the end of this video, I'm gonna play you a short film with all the characters as villains. And with all that said, let's move on to our first character. Starting with Isabela, the golden child of the family. But what if she was a villain? Let's find out. Okay, Craig, what are Isabela's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? According to Craig, her first moral is strives for excellence, and the evil version of that would be demands domination. Her second is respects beauty, and the evil version of that would be manipulates appearances for control. Her third is uses creativity for good. The evil version would be uses creativity for destruction. And her primary motive in the movie is to cultivate beauty and harmony. And the evil motive would be to spread fear and chaos. And her key color is purple, and the evil version would be dark purple. Okay, Craig, turn Isabela into a villain. Okay, so Craig went all out with this one. Her dress, instead of being nice and round and flowing, it now has like jagged edges, and that's definitely villainesque. The 2 horrifying fly traps behind her are like her henchmen, which every good villain has a henchman. How would the villain version of Isabela affect the storyline of Encanto?
Isabela's need for domination would fracture the family and isolate Mirabel. Her manipulation of appearances would turn the house into a chaotic, oppressive place. Her destructive creativity would terrorize the village and ruin the Madrigal's reputation.
In the movie, I always felt like she was the most powerful because she could grow like really sharp plants. So as a villain, I feel like she could do really bad stuff and get away with it. Craig, you started off really strong. For this one, I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. Now let's add the villain version of Isabela to the poster. I feel like the villain version of Isabela really suits her because she's already kind of mean in Encanto. That's 1 down, 7 left, and then the short film, which is really cool. Moving on to number 2, Abuela. The character who was already kind of the villain in the beginning of Encanto because she was really rude to Mirabel and Bruno, but that... Okay, Craig, what are Abuela's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? According to Craig, her first moral is protects her family, and the evil version would be abandons her family's well-being. Her second is guides with authority, and the evil version would be seeks power at all costs. Her third is preserves tradition, and the evil version would be destroys values for personal gain. And her primary motive in the movie is to preserve the miracle for the family, and the evil motive would be to exploit the miracle for herself. Her key color is purple, and the evil version would be dark purple. Okay, Craig, turn Abuela into a villain. Okay. What did Craig do to Abuela? This is actually insane. She looks like a villain. She looks like the mean stepmother from Cinderella. She's like Mother Gothel, but like 5 times scarier. Craig, how would the villain version of Abuela affect the storyline of Encanto?
Abuela's hunger for power would splinter the family bonds she once worked to protect. Her rejection of tradition would create confusion and rebellion among the Madrigals. Her exploitation of the miracle would drain its magic, leaving the family powerless.
If that was in the movie, it would be a pretty sad movie. But as far as her being a villain, it's pretty good. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Now let's add the villain version of Abuela to the poster. Yeah, she definitely is a terrifying villain. Yep. That's 2 characters down, 6 to go until the short film, which is definitely worth the wait. Number 3 is Bruno. My favorite character from the movie, and every time I watch it, I get so mad because like, why did they have to treat Bruno like that? He couldn't control it. I love Bruno. He's my boy. Okay, Craig, what are Bruno's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? According to Craig, his first moral is reveals the truth to protect, and the evil version would be spreads truth to harm. His second moral would be seeks understanding, and the evil version would be thrives on ignorance. His third moral is sacrifices for family. The evil version of that would be seeks revenge for personal satisfaction. And his primary motive in the movie is to protect family with visions. And the evil motive would be tear family apart with revelations. And his key color is green, and the evil version would be dark green. Okay, Craig, turn Bruno into a villain. Craig, what did you do to Bruno? This is actually illegal. I feel like Bruno would never turn evil, but if he were, this is how he would look. The way he's looking up at you, it's not like he's just a villain, he's a crazy villain. Craig, how would this villain version of Bruno affect the storyline of Encanto?
Bruno's vindictive nature would create lasting divisions within the family. His open exposure of secrets would make the Madrigals mistrust one another. His misuse of visions would sow fear and chaos in the village.
Yeah, Bruno could definitely ruin the storyline of Encanto. With these powers as a villain, it would be a pretty crazy movie. So Craig, I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. Now let's add the villain version of Bruno to the poster. Yeah, there's getting to be too many villains on this poster. It's kind of scary. That is 3 down, 5 left, and then the short film, which I'm pretty excited about. Next is Pepa, the character who has a power to control the weather with her emotions, which as a villain, that power can be pretty terrifying, because if you're angry all the time, wouldn't it be storming like all the time? Let's find out. Okay, Craig, what are Pepa's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? So according to Craig, her first moral is expresses emotions honestly, and the evil version would be expresses emotions for harm. Her second moral is brings joy and energy. The evil version would be inflicts cruelty and apathy. Her third moral is channels her energy into family care. The evil version would be exhausts family with chaos. And her primary motive in the movie is to balance emotions for family harmony. And the evil motive would be to use storms to isolate and destroy. And her key color is yellow, and the evil version would be dark yellow. Okay, Craig, turn Pepa into a villain. Why is she smiling like that? That's not okay. Like, even for a villain, that's just not okay. Like, is she about to send a hurricane through? Like, honestly, there's like a really cool lightning bolt behind her, which is scary, but kind of cool. Craig, how would this villain version of Pepa affect the storyline of Encanto?
Peppa's emotional storms would wreak havoc on the family's home and relationships. Her cruelty would alienate her loved ones and destroy their morale. Her suppressed emotions would create unpredictable and dangerous outbursts.
Overall, this is kind of a cool villain version of Pepa. Craig, you did pretty good with this one, so I'm gonna give you an 8.5 out of 10. Now let's add the villain version of Pepa to the poster. Yeah, she looks pretty good on the poster, but that smile it's creepy. That's 4 down, 4 left until the short film, and I cannot wait. Like, personally, I'm excited. Moving on to character number 5, Antonio. The character who's really optimistic and happy, and he also has a power to talk to animals, so I'm curious to see what he would be like as a villain. Okay, Craig, what are Antonio's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? According to Craig, his first moral is protects nature and animals, and the evil version would be ignores nature's balance. His second moral is shows kindness to all creatures, and the evil version would be commands cruelty through nature. His third moral is embraces curiosity to learn, and the evil version would be embraces fear to avoid responsibility. And his primary motive in the movie would be to foster unity with nature, and the evil motive would be to wield nature as a weapon. And his key color is orange, and the evil version would be really dark orange. Okay, Craig, turn Antonio into a villain. This version of Antonio is kind of crazy because he looks insane. And you could see that there are cages in the background, like he's caging the animals instead of helping them. Okay, Craig, how would the villain version of Antonio affect the storyline of Encanto?
Antonio's indifference would break the bond between humans and nature. His cruelty would turn animals into weapons against the madrigals and the village. His cowardice would leave the family defenseless as his actions spiraled out of control.
Okay, Okay, so that is kind of crazy. Antonio is like the rebellious child, but he's not like a super villain, and so I'm gonna give this one a 4 out of 10. Now let's add the villain version of Antonio to the poster. That is 5 left, 3 more before the short film, and we're getting pretty close, so hold your horses. Next is the character Camilo, who has the power to shapeshift into anyone, which is honestly kind of creepy because you don't know who is actually themselves. Okay, Craig, what are Camilo's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? According to Craig, his first moral is helps others through humor, and the evil version would be deceives others for personal gain. His second moral is builds trust with charm, and the evil version would be destroys trust with manipulation. His third moral is adapts to support others, and the evil version would be adapts to exploit others. And his primary motive in the movie is to bring laughter and relief, and the evil motive would be to create fear and confusion. And his key color is yellow, and the evil version would be dark yellow. Okay, Craig, turn Camilo into a villain. So this is Camilo as a villain, and honestly, it looks like he's planning some evil things. Like he's going to shapeshift into somebody you thought you know, but it turns out just to be Camilo. Craig, how would this villain version of Camilo affect the storyline of Encanto?
Camilo's deception would turn the madrigals against each other. His overbearing behavior would exhaust the village's trust and resources. His inflexibility would trap the family in an endless cycle of conflict and fear.
Yeah, he would like completely mess up everything around him, like confusion, manipulation. Everyone would be horrified, and so would I. And just like Antonio, it seems like he's more of an evil troublemaker more than an evil warlord, you know? Like he's not planning to start a huge battle, but he's just wanting to rouse up like trouble. For this one, Craig, I'm gonna give you a 6.5. Now let's add the villain version of Camilo to the poster. Yeah, what is with that smile? It's creeping me out a little bit, because, I mean, just look at it. That is 6 characters down, only 2 left before the short film, so we're really close. Next is Luisa, the character who is really big and strong and who would make a horrifying villain, because what would she do? I feel like she would just be full of rage and just like hurt people. Okay, Craig, what are Luisa's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? According to Craig, her first moral is uses strength to protect, and the evil version would be uses strength to harm. Her second moral is takes responsibility, and the evil version would be avoids accountability. Her third is empathizes with others, and the evil version would be exploits others' weaknesses. Her primary motive in the movie is to carry burdens for others, and the evil motive would be to crush others for personal satisfaction. And her key color is purple, and the evil version would be dark purple. Okay, Craig, turn Luisa into a villain. Okay, so it looks like she's in like a rage fit and she's like destroying the whole house or Encanto or whatever. Craig, how would this villain version of Luisa affect the storyline of Encanto?
Luisa's brute strength would destroy the family's home and community. Her laziness would force others to bear the weight of her destructive actions. Her ruthlessness would create a power struggle, breaking the family's unity.
So far, I think she would be the scariest villain. She's like a human version of the Hulk. I feel like she's a pretty good villain. Craig, for this one, because it's honestly horrifying, I'm gonna give you a 9 out of 10. Now let's add this villain version of Luisa to the poster. Okay, so she's just as huge and horrifying on the poster, and I wouldn't be surprised if every other villain was scared of her. That is 7 down, only 1 left before the short film. We are really close, guys. Only 1 left. Next is Mirabel, the literal hero of the movie, so it's gonna be pretty interesting to see her as a villain. Okay, Craig, what are Mirabel's 3 main morals, primary motive, and key color? According to Craig, her first moral is values family unity, and the evil version would be manipulates family for control. Her second is shows compassion and care, and the evil version would be ignores others' suffering. Her third would be perseveres for the greater good, and the evil version would be perseveres for her own good. And her primary motive in the movie is to save her family and the miracle, and the evil motive would be to tear her family apart intentionally. And her key color is teal, and the evil version would be dark teal. Okay, Craig, turn Mirabel into a villain. Okay, so the usually bright and cheery Mirabel is now dark and scary, and I feel like she's just full of hate towards her family for treating her without powers. So I could see how this villain version of Mirabel could be pretty scary. Craig, how would this villain version of Mirabel affect the storyline of Encanto?
Mirabel's manipulation would pit the family members against one another. Her callousness would make her indifferent to the family's suffering. Her selfish attitude would ensure the miracle's destruction, leaving the madrigals powerless.
Craig, this one is alright. It's not your greatest, but I'm gonna give you a 7 out of 10. Now, let's finish the poster with this villain version of Mirabel. The poster is done, and all the villains are in one spot, and it's honestly pretty scary. Imagine being in a room with all of those villains. I don't think I would come out alive. Now that we have all 8 characters as villains, let's play the short film about them.
One night in the casita, the miracle of the madrigals turned dark. The candle flickered, cracks spread, and the family awoke to chaos. Isabela's perfect flowers twisted into choking vines. Luisa's strength destroyed instead of protected. Pepa's emotions unleashed storms that raged uncontrollably. And Antonio's animals turned into dangerous predators. Bruno's visions spread fear. Camilo's charm became deceit, and Abuela clung to control, her love for the miracle twisting into tyranny. Even Mirabel, the heart of the family, stood cold and distant, watching the chaos unfold. In the ruins of the casita, Mirabel discovered a glowing mosaic that whispered, "Unity mends what pride destroys." Despite their darkness, the family joined forces, and together they sang before the flickering candle. The darkness lifted, their gifts were restored, and their bond was renewed. The madrigals stood united, the miracle glowing brighter than ever.